Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Bullony Basketball. As you can see, I'm joined by not one, not two, but 3 Point Weekly. How you guys doing today?
Doing good.
Great intro. Great intro. I'm doing
Man,
good too, man.
one take, one take.
Yeah, well, one take. Obviously we don't miss over here. But obviously you guys have seen all these guys before on my channel, like Gabe, Devin, and Reek. But I've never had them all on here for an episode before. I had you guys on the Family Feud thing. Of course, you guys took the W there. And we'll see how well you guys do in this mini game we got at the end of the show here. But today's all about play-in predictions. The season is over. It's final. And now we got the 7, 8, 9, and 10 satisfied. 7 and 8 in the East, I think that's where we should probably start off, though. And then maybe we'll gradually make our way into each elimination. So I think we'll start off with Philadelphia and Miami. I feel like this is kind of a classic because, of course, Jimmy Butler, former Sixer, him and Embiid go way back. They even played in 2022 in the playoffs. So, just for this series first, I guess we can start off with you, Devin. Who is winning this game?
This is a difficult one for me to predict. Obviously, there's concerns for Philly with where Embiid's going to be at. Is he healthy? Is he not? How available is he going to be even if he does play? So that's going to be the biggest variable. Outside of that, Miami, similar to last year, just kind of limping their way into the postseason, trying to make their way into the playoffs. And last year, they didn't really show up until their ass was on the line. And they just didn't really do anything until that last moment against your Bulls where it was like, okay, we need to do something. And they pulled it out. I wouldn't be surprised if they do something similar this year. Embiid or not, I think Philly have been playing pretty good ball as of late. We know what Nurse can do, especially in a one-game setup where he can scheme some things and try to eliminate some of Miami's strengths. Maxi's been playing good ball, Buddy Hield's been starting to get more comfortable in Philly. Kelly Oubre's been starting to shoot the ball better again over the last couple of weeks. So if I'm picking someone here, I'm picking Philly, Joel Embiid or not, regardless of how available he is. Miami, as crazy as it is, I don't know if this is enough pressure for them to fully figure it out and get themselves into the postseason as a 7 seed. So let me take Philly as that 7 seed.
For sure. You can go ahead.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I would take Philly as well. I think home court advantage is also kind of a big deal here. But for many of the same reasons Devin said, like even Embiid right now, clearly not 100%. He missed a few months of basketball. Like it's going to take still a little more time for him to get back to that MVP. But he's still been really good since he came back. And he has the type of game to where, he can still impact winning without even being at that 100% like how he was early on in the season. And just matchup wise, I just kind of like the coaching matchup too. Like Devin mentioned, Nick Nurse is one that can kind of rival Eric Spoelstra when it comes to adjustments, postseason basketball and stuff like that. So I would like to see what Nick Nurse can really, throw out there in this one game scenario. He had it last year, but definitely a more talented team now in Philadelphia than what was in Toronto. So that's going to be interesting. And Miami's just kind of been so up and down still. I feel like they've looked a lot better in stretches, but they're kind of on a downturn right now, which is not good. What are you going to get from the Terry Rozier's of the world? Tyler Hero coming back. How is he going to be integrated? It's kind of a lot of question marks. And like Deb mentioned last year, they did not show up until it was like a few minutes left in that game where Max Strus went crazy, and that's how they got into the playoffs, and they made that magical run and everything. So still kind of a lot of similarities between that team last year and this year. So I'm going to take Philadelphia to win the 7-8 matchup.
Yeah, I think you guys are kind of right on the money with this, talking about Miami being a real similar team to last year. This year, they're like 2 games better, but at the end of the day, still find themselves in this 7-8 matchup. And it probably is going to go the same way. I also have Philly similar to you guys. I just think they're too hot right now, and they have a lot more talent than Miami does. They always find a way to make it work with the coaching. Spoelstra's a magician, but in this specific game, we just saw Embiid against the Magic in a big-time game, 32 points in 32 minutes. He's still coming back, still getting to 100%, but he was already just that good that quickly. I think you're going to see a lot more of that in this playing game. He'll probably do his damage even if he's on a minutes restriction or just however they choose to limit him. He's going to get work done. Tyrese Maxey, he always elevates his game in the big games as well. Like you guys mentioned with Nick Nurse, they'll probably find a way to shut down Miami's offense because, as we know, their offense being dynamic is usually their biggest struggle. So, all in all, yeah, this one's going to Philly.
Yeah, I'm right there with all you guys. I think Philly's going to win this. I think what you said to Devin is kind of one of the biggest indicators why. It's not that Miami can't win, but I feel like they've kind of played so up and down all year that I feel like maybe the pressure isn't on their back quite as much right now, much like when they really should have beat Atlanta last season. So like in that first playing game. So I think the similar thing is going to happen. And of course, like we've seen Miami and Philadelphia maybe in big games like in recent years, but of course a lot of those games were with Doc Rivers at the helm of things. It's a little bit different when Nick Nurse is there, who's, like as you guys said, he's a head coach that can really combat what Spoelstra does. Embiid as well, like he is just getting back, but he's still playing like really good. Like even if it's 90% of Joel Embiid, like that's more than enough, I think, to get past this Miami Heat team in this one game. And then not only that, but like also like Tyrese Maxey. Even I remember there was a game earlier this year where Miami was playing. I think pretty much everyone was good, but obviously the Sixers were without Embiid, and then Tyrese Maxey just went off and he took over the game late as well. So I think that the Heat, like, yeah, like I know they've made these runs like where they've gone to the finals as like a lower seed in the first round, and especially last season, but I just don't know if maybe the same magic is going to happen in their favor this time. But at least for this one game, I just don't think they're going to be able to pull it off. And I think Philadelphia is going to win, and they're going to be facing the Knicks.
Hey, I mean, that's a good pick. Thinking about just the playoff matchups that gives us, like, Philadelphia does not want the Celtics in the first round. So I think they're really going to go all in to try and win this game. Whereas Miami, I mean, last year they beat the Celtics and the Knicks, but this version of the Celtics is a little bit different. So we'll see what they can do there. But like Devin was kind of stating earlier with the, like, Miami doesn't really turn it on until the pressure's really on them. If I'm looking at that 9-10 matchup, anything can happen on any given day, but I'm not as worried as I could be in a lot of other situations.
I feel like we felt that way last year too, though. Like when it was the Bulls going into Miami, and obviously you got DeMar, you got Zach LaVine and everything, but I still kind of got the vibe like, okay, Miami should be okay. They should have they were more talented than Atlanta. They probably should have won that game, but then for them to lose 2 in a row was kind of, that would have been insane. But they were literally that close to losing that game too. So
Don't remind me.
I'm sorry, but you never really know with this team, man. They're just as sporadic as it gets.
Yeah, and I mean that's like you said, Gabe. It's only one game, and even though they might be a favorite in those 9-10 matchup, whoever they end up getting from it, it's one game. And at the end of the day, they're in the play-in for a reason. Whether you want to argue that these 9-10 seeds are as good as the ones out west, that's a whole other discussion. But they're still there. Still an NBA roster, and anything can happen in one game, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, even a few years ago, there was, granted, the Clippers were injured, but even in that 8-9 game, and the Pelicans were like 6 or 7 games lower than them, and they still easily pulled off that game. So anything can happen. It is one game, but I just feel like Miami's not going to have maybe that immediate pressure. I think they also think, too, we know that Boston is the more talented team than New York, but New York is going to bring that 100% effort every single night, and maybe Miami's thinking into themselves like, well, that's the way we play. So do we want to match up with someone who maybe our strength is one of their biggest strengths as well, and then really just kind of like leave it up in the air, or do we want to maybe pick at a team that we have experience getting the upper hand on in Boston and then go from there? So I feel like that's something that we might consider as well. So,
yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, if you guys want to move on here to the other side of things, the 7-8 in the West, we got the 7 seed New Orleans Pelicans going against the 8 seed LA Lakers. I mean, we just saw them end the season against each other, and man, was it ugly for the Pelicans. Granted, they're not going to have to, move anywhere. They're going to, be staying in New Orleans, getting ready for the next game. But I guess we can start with Gabe on this one. Between the Pelicans and the Lakers, what are you thinking? Like, who's taking this?
This is a hard game for me to predict because I feel like talent-wise, I don't think it's too far off. I think the Pelicans definitely have more depth in this matchup, but as far as top-end talent, Zion and Brandon Ingram are really good, but they're not LeBron and AD. Coaching-wise, I do think Willie Green is pretty significantly better than Darvin Ham. So can New Orleans' depth and scheming overcome LeBron and AD? I'm not sure, but if I had to make a safe pick, I think I'm going to go with the Lakers. And I hate to say that, but they did just win the game before. I know it's hard to beat a team twice in a row, but I just feel like this matchup and in this big game and how good AD's been this year, with it being a matchup against Zion as the other team's top player, I think that goes pretty favorably for them. And you just never know what you can get. Just like, I don't know if I want to call it vintage because he's still so good, but a classic LeBron puts the backpack on, drops a crazy stat line, and all of a sudden the Lakers are in it. So for as much up and downs as the Lakers have, and as suspect as Darvin Ham can be sometimes, I think that two-headed monster will be enough to get the job done here.
A couple things that are concerning for both sides. AD leaving the game today, back spasms, everything. Slight concern because back spasms can definitely act up, when you least expect it. So that's a little bit of a concern for me on the Lakers side. And then for the Pels, it's more so like BI. This was his first game back today in like 3 weeks. So, how much of a factor is he going to be? He didn't really even play that much today. So how much of a factor is he going to be in this play-in matchup? For me, the X factor in this game, CJ McCollum's been playing really good. I think over his last 6 before today, he was averaging like 30 points a game or something like that. He's going to be important because he's somebody that in a one-game scenario can, I think, really swing things in the Pelicans' favor. I have a feeling we might get a big CJ game. Last time they were in the play-in, he kind of stunk. He had a bad year last season. He's definitely bounced back this year, been a lot better. I could see a big CJ McCollum game kind of lifting the Pelicans. The AD situation just kind of worries me just a little bit. And until I know more, I'm going to take New Orleans in this one.
Okay. Yeah, the AD concern is definitely valid. He has said that he intends to play, but like you say, I mean, how is he affected? Does it flare up again? There's definitely question marks there. But ultimately, there's a lot of things for the Pelicans that matchup-wise, I think they're going to struggle with the Lakers, and we've seen that throughout the season. We saw it today. AD is crucial in that, so he's going to have to be available, but he's a difficult matchup for them. Even though AD is a big, he's still much more mobile and able to stretch the floor much more than is ideal for JV to be able to handle. So JV kind of gets forced out of this matchup. He only played about 7 minutes today. So Larry Nance becomes very important, but then the size of Larry Nance becomes its own issue because obviously not as big of a guy as AD. AD is going to be able to get more availability in the paint on offense, offensive boards, defensive rebounding, you name it. AD's got a handle on that matchup, and that's a pretty significant thing to overcome. Another point that I very much favor the Lakers in is, like you said, Gabe, the Pelicans have great depth. Some of the best depth in the league, elite bench. Problem is it's one game. Depth starts to matter a lot less in one game. That star talent starts to take a lot more importance. So like you said, Reek, a guy like CJ, he's going to be massive. They're going to need someone like him to step up. They're going to need BI to be ready to go, even though he's been missing time over the last few weeks. He's got to be able to step in and go right away. But ultimately, when you're the Lakers, you have LeBron and AD, you have the experience, you have the guys who are the star talent and have what most people would probably agree are the two best players in this matchup. Not to mention the fact D'Lo's been playing quite well over the last couple of months. Reeves is starting to find his footing better. The secondary guys are playing good for the Lakers as well. So that star talent, especially that matchup with AD, is an issue for the Pels. I think this is one that the Lakers bring home.
Yeah, for me at least, this seems like it should be one of the most intense or I guess exciting playing games. Although for me, I feel like this is the easiest pick. I feel like the Lakers are going to win. And that's even without knowing how AD is, if he's 100% or not. I know he said, like, oh, I'm definitely going to be playing next game. Now, whether he has to come in and out or, maybe play a little bit less than normal, that could happen. But, I mean, just not only from watching the game today, but just from watching the games throughout the season and also even up until, like, last season, the games that, like, maybe Zion and Ingram and their main core was there, like, I feel like you can tell this Pelicans team is rattled every time they play the Lakers. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because they made the trade many years back, but you were just seeing like they were not playing anything similar to like what they normally play against Sacramento, for example. You could take that game that just happened like a week ago. Everything was flowing perfectly. Like Sacramento was like running all over the court. They couldn't guard them. Today, it's like they took away the inside, and I think they're going to do the same thing again. And Zion, especially, like he was getting frustrated in today's game. He's gotten frustrated before playing against this same team. So I just think it's not going to be like, will it be a closer game than maybe today's? Yeah, but I just don't think it's going to go in the Pelicans' favor. Like I feel like they're kind of in their head a little bit. Yes, Willie Green probably is the superior coach of the two between him and Darvin Ham, but I just don't think that that's going to matter as much, especially because, like we even said, even if AD isn't in the picture or maybe 100%, like LeBron's still probably then the next best player in the series, even over everyone on the other side. So I'm going to take the Lakers to get the 7th seed.
Let me ask y'all this real quick because sitting at the 2 seed is the defending champs.
Mm-hmm.
I saw somebody tweet this earlier today, but they were like, do you think it's possible that the Lakers would rather lose this game just so they avoid Denver? Because the Lakers have looked really, I think, underratedly good in a lot of stretches this season. But the one team that they just don't have anything for is the Nuggets. And maybe that's just a lot of teams in the NBA don't have much for the Nuggets. But for the Lakers specifically, it just seems like they can't beat Denver, right? Do you think that they would have...
There are 2 teams, and I'll get to it in a sec. Continue, though.
Do you think they would have any type of thought in their head that, maybe we'll concede this game and take our chances in the 8 seed matchup instead of just winning it and then guaranteeing we got Denver?
I would say no right off the bat. Just looking at the 2 teams that are in that 9-10 matchup, I feel like those are teams that can get hot on offense and then you just can't stop them, and you don't want that in a 1-game scenario. Like if you gave me 7 games of like Lakers Kings, I think they take that. We saw Lakers Warriors in 7 games last year. The Lakers took that. But in just 1 game, I think that's too risky of a bet against those teams. And also, just like, not that the whole core has, but at least LeBron and AD, they've won the title on this team together, won championships. I feel like their mindset would more be like, we need to play the best available. And they probably want their lick back on Denver too, because that's who took them out last year. So, I mean, there's history there. I don't know if they'd really want to duck that, even if it might be advantageous. But in this play-in tournament, I don't think that's the case because the Pelicans, like Garrett was talking about taking away the inside, they don't play at a fast pace. They don't put up a ton of threes. Like, this is not the team who's traditionally going to get hot and then all of a sudden take your legs out from under you. So this is probably going to be the one they want to take.
Yeah, I'm with you there. You don't want to start messing around in a 1-game elimination with a De'Aaron Fox or a Steph Curry. That's a dangerous game to play.
Yeah, I just think too it's like, and especially with AD's status being a little bit unknown, and we've all seen like just the way that they haven't been able to have an answer for, the Warriors in general. Like they won the season series over them. We saw like the most recent game, I think everyone thought like, okay, Lakers are going to win this. It's going to be like a 2-2 season series. I don't think people were ready for the Warriors to win in that fashion. And that's kind of like what Gabe was saying. But on the same time, we got a team like the Kings who, yeah, granted, like it's not all because of this one-on-one matchup, but I mean, you guys have seen the stats with AD and Sabonis, and it's like he can't win against Sabonis, so like, especially if he's a little bit like maybe limited, And we know how De'Aaron Fox goes off against the Lakers like every single time they play. Like maybe he probably is like one of the, I guess, Laker killers the most in the league. Like I feel like it's just really hard, even if they do have a home court edge against either of those teams. Now, of course, if they do win and they get to play the Thunder, like it's definitely a better case scenario than playing the Nuggets, I would say. But it is a little bit risky, I guess, yeah.
Okay, just thought I would throw that out there.
I mean, I feel you on that, but I do think that they are like definitely going to have that vengeance part of it where it's like, okay, the Nuggets got rid of us last year, so I do think they will play better against them this season, but it's just really hard to pick against Denver when they're so consistent, like start to finish this whole season. Like you could argue maybe they're even a little bit better this year because their record shows it too. So I don't know. It should be interesting though. But I mean, we all picked the Lakers. Reek is going with the Pelicans with the uncertainty of AD. But I guess we can start getting into these elimination games now. Starting with the 9-10 in the Eastern Conference, we got my Chicago Bulls at the 9 seed, and we got the 10 seed Atlanta Hawks. I feel like this is kind of like a little bit of a rivalry that goes back until that 4 overtime game, like years back when it was like super high scoring and both of us were mid, and years later we're still mid. So I guess we can start off. Give this one to you, Reek. I might have a feeling which way you're going to lean here, but give us your response. Who is going to win this?
Come on, man. Y'all know what I'm going to say. Trae Young can get you a game. Nah, all seriousness, though, Trae's just getting back, and that concerns me. Like, he's just getting back. And I think the Bulls, as, mid as the season has been for them, I just think they defend better. DeMar in a close game, he's been playing really well. That's my clutch player of the year. Kobe White has been, good for most of the season. I think even like Vooch could like kind of play a big role in this game. I'm just not really confident in Atlanta at all. Like even today, they played their starters for a good part of that game against Indiana, and Indiana put up 157 points in regulation. Like that's just bad. And selfishly, I want the Hawks to lose this game, and I'm going to pick the Bulls to actually win this because Trae's just getting back. He hasn't looked great since he's been back either. Like, he missed a decent amount of time. So just to ask him to go into a one-game scenario and kind of carry the load, even though DeJounte maybe could do that too. But I think the Bulls overall just a more solid team, more continuity than what the Hawks have showed me. So I'm going to take Chicago to win this one.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me because, like you say, traditionally I would just think Trae's going to get you a game and Atlanta's going to win this. And it's not quite that black and white here with Trae coming back and with the other injuries Atlanta have right now too. I mean, Jalen Johnson's going to be out and Kongwu's out. They're dealing with multiple key injuries right now. Now DeJounte Murray's been playing some pretty good basketball, which you'd hope is going to help them. Now, of course, that's still relying on the fact that Trae Young and DeJounte Murray can actually play well offensively together, which we know hasn't exactly been the case. Bogdan Bogdanovic has been playing well as in Trae's absence as well. So they're going to have to hope that it's not Trae can get you a game, but probably a combination of Trae, DeJounte, and Bogdanovic can get you a game. Because after that, no Jalen Johnson, no Sadiq Bey, no Okongwu. They're missing a lot of production. Those guys are probably going to have to drop like 75 to 80 points together. I think they're going to do it, and I think they're going to win. But I think that's what it's going to take. I think it's going to be a very close matchup. I think Chicago are going to battle in this, but DeMar, playoffs or play-in, I don't believe in it. There's still some question marks as far as how their young guards in Chicago are going to perform in a postseason environment. Obviously, they've had some amount of experience, but Kobe White and DeSumo aren't exactly the most experienced of guys in this environment. So I think it's going to be a close one, but I'm taking the Hawks.
Yep. Gabe.
Yeah, you guys both make really compelling points, and this is another one I'm close on. Just in you guys talking, it's bring up things where I'm like, kind of tipping the scales. But I think after thinking about it, there's really just one key thing that's going to make me go with Chicago, and it's Atlanta's bottom five defense. Just looking at the history of the play-in, like you've seen, like the Charlotte teams that would make the play-in, or like the first couple years of the play-in with like the Pacers, they just did not have the defense there. Were not sound at all on that end, and that get to that one game elimination scenario, and they literally get blown out by like 30 plus points. Like it would get ugly. And so me just walking into this with, like you guys are talking about, like Trey's coming off injury, that could lead to like Trey, he's either the best player on the court or he's dropping a stinker going like 5 for 17 or something crazy. So with that questionable, and that defense I know is probably going to get exposed. Now, not that the Bulls have the best offense in the world, but DeMar will go to work. Like you guys were saying, Vooch could be big in this game. I don't necessarily know if the Bulls are good enough to make it ugly, but I just can't trust that defense enough to pick the Hawks, so I'm going Chicago.
Okay. So, obviously this is my team. So, just from watching these matchups with these two teams this season, I will say like one of the biggest factors, and it's gonna sound a little bit like a broken record, but it seems like one of the biggest factors has been when Trae Young has played, we've actually played better against them, and then when he hasn't played, we haven't. And it's more so than just like a score thing, but also like our guards seem like more free flowing. They're moving more. Seems like they're like more confident in their shots. Like I don't know really what it is necessarily, but for me at least, like just from watching this, and I know as you've said, like Reek, like Trey has shown he can get you a game and stuff like that, but I just feel like in this matchup, like I don't know if he'll be able, especially just coming back, I don't know if he'll be able to lead them over my Bulls, and that's why I'm going to pick my Bulls. Now, I know this team all too well, so I wouldn't be surprised if we were down like insanely amount. I mean, we have literally 2 Raptors fans here. You guys remember the game last year? We were down like 20 to you guys, and somehow we won. Like, that's just the team we are, Like, it makes no sense. So I wouldn't be surprised if we start off the game and we're down like 12-2 or something, and I'm like, way to go, guys, just like watching it. Yeah, but I am going to, believe in my Bulls, I guess, but I think Kobe White's actually going to have a pretty good game. Even last year in the play-in before he took his jump, like he did play pretty well for the most part. But I don't know, like nothing surprises me with this team anymore. So any prediction that we made, like based on this game, I could see the Bulls blowing them out. I could see the Bulls barely winning. I could see the Hawks barely winning. I could see the Hawks blowing them out. Any possibility is possible. And so I'm going to go with the Bulls, but it'll probably be closer than I think it should be, at least watching. So, yeah.
It'd be a great game if it was close. Just the clutch battle between Trey and DeMar. These teams are both not very good. So if there's any real highlight, that would be it.
I don't know if the Bulls want to see Trae Young in a close game, man. He's like the best playing player like ever.
Trae Young,
like all seriousness, like Trae Young.
Well, I mean,
never lost a playing game.
I mean, Pat Bev won a play-in championship though, so like.
Didn't Jason Tatum have like 50 his only time in the play-in?
Yeah, but Trae Young's
small sample size, but
very small. Like Trae Young's played like 5 playing games, I think, maybe 4 or something like that, and he's won all of them. So there's a lot on the line.
Get him out of. Give
him a statue, man.
Yeah, they're gonna have to name the play-in MVP after him.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, there just is. I feel like there's a lot of injuries on both sides, but I do think that maybe the injuries that like we've had more time to adjust since. But I also think like it has allowed other players to thrive that maybe didn't get the same opportunity. I think Kobe White's the biggest example of that, but also like guys like Io. I think what I'm most glad with, at least in recent games, is that Javonte Green, who literally was nowhere for almost the whole year, and that's that's not even just a bad thing on the Bulls, but that's a bad thing for the whole league. Like, shame on the whole league for leaving him there, like, almost all season long. But I can't believe we actually brought him back, and I'm glad that, like, we're actually playing him big minutes, because I think he's going to have a huge part in, not just this game if we win, but also, like, the next game if we win. And if we get the 8th seed, then after that, like, he's going to be huge for us, like, the rest of this season.
I was gonna say, like, I could see him having like a 15-point game, which is like big time in a 1-game scenario. But yeah, like you said, how this man was sitting in the G League for the entire season until a few weeks ago is criminal. Like, he should have been on the roster as soon as he was ready to be, man. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. But I mean, we can move on here to the other side of things, maybe the more interesting 9-10 in the West, because it's not two below average teams, and that is the Sacramento Kings and the Golden State Warriors. Obviously, they had maybe the most exciting first round matchup we saw last season, and now they're meeting up in the play-in. So I guess I'll throw this back to Devin to start off. Who is going to win this game, and who is going home?
This is a difficult one for me because neither of these teams really give me a great vote of confidence. Obviously, the Kings, not a great end to the season. That hasn't been helped by the fact that Malik Monk's now out. Kevin Huerter's also going to be out. So they're missing a lot of firepower. They're missing a lot of spacing. The Warriors' struggles this year are well documented. They've been very up and down. Of course, Clay's struggles are well documented. Wiggins' struggles are well documented. There's nothing not known there about what they've been going through this year. But ultimately, I think there's a lot more going against the Kings than there is the Warriors. As mentioned, Huerter and Monk's injuries are going to be very tough. Not having that spark plug off the bench, and Monk, who's been a guy who we've seen in the postseason who can get you 20, 30, 40, and potentially win you a game. The spacing of Huerter not being there is going to hurt as well. Now, Keon Ellis has been quite good in his absence, but very different type of player, much more a defensive guy, not as great of a shooter, although Huerter wasn't exactly lighting things up this year, but still offered a lot of spacing for you. We also know that despite the fact that Sabonis has been much better this year, despite the fact he's been shooting better this year, he didn't exactly have an amazing time last year against the Warriors. Now it might be different personnel than what he saw last year. We know Kevon Looney gave him a lot of problems last year in the postseason. Looney has not been anywhere near as part of the rotation in Golden State this year. Might be more Draymond minutes, might be more Trace Jackson Davis minutes, but no doubt that the Warriors have known how to give Sabonis problems. Whether his improvement from mid-range and from the three-point line will help him compared to where he was at last year, that could be the swinging point. But I think it's going to be tough for Sacramento because Sabonis, 20, 10, and 10 might not be enough. They might need like a 30, 10, and 10 game from him with the type of injuries they have, or De'Aaron's going to have to go crazy. Because of that, they are so limited without Huerter and without Monk. I think the Warriors will have a bit of an edge here, but this could go either way if Sabonis has enough of a game, but he's going to be key for them, and I'm not buying it given how well they have defended him during last year's postseason. So give me Golden State.
Yeah, tough year for Sacramento, man. I mean, stretches they looked really good, but you could tell like the numbers back up like how inconsistent their offense has been this season. And like Devin mentioned, like that's because of guys like Kevin Huerter not shooting the ball as well. Keegan Murray being very streaky this year. Like I think they were like almost like historically good last year, and they dropped to like 13th this year, which is like a big time drop off because that was their calling card last year. And you know the defense has been slightly better this year numbers wise. It's not enough to really make up. And I think the biggest like issue is Malik Monk being out because Malik Monk gave the Warriors fits in that first round series last year. Like, he was really some nights the best offensive player for Sacramento. Like he had some really big time games, and that was with De'Aaron having an amazing first playoff series himself. And even though I think Sabonis can probably be a little better this year, like Devin mentioned, Looney was like dominating him in every aspect last year. I think he can maybe be better in this game, but like Dev said, like he would have to have like one of those career games, like scoring the basketball, especially because of how inconsistent De'Aaron Fox has kind of been. And even so, like the Warriors, they got the lengthy wing defenders to kind of throw at De'Aaron, especially with no Malik Monk playing in this game. It just seems like all the odds are against the Kings right now. and Golden State has been a better road team this year than they have been a home team. So I'm gonna take the Warriors to win this one. Tough one for the Kings because they had a great story last year, up and down this year, but it just seems like there's too much working against them to get this win.
Dude, I'm tired of talking about Sabonis after Wednesday. Bro.
I'm not even gonna say it. I'm not even gonna say it. Go ahead.
You guys already know where I'm going with this. I do not trust Sabonis in a postseason setting. I think he's shown repeatedly that he's usually does not step up to the plate. Now, this could be the time where he proves us wrong, but usually he does not step up to the plate. Like you guys said, their third highest scorer, Malik Monk, he's out, and that punch off the bench is going to be well missed. I can't bet against Steph Curry in a one-game setting, man. Like, that's my homer pick, I get. I mean, call it a homer pick. I'm kind of picking the same as both of the other members of 3 Point Weekly on the panel. So it's not that much of a hot take, but give me Curry, man. That's all.
Yeah, I think maybe the best indicator for how this is going to go, I mean, obviously they're in a one-game scenario right now, but they really were in a one-game scenario last year because it went to Game 7, and Game 7 is win or go home. And what we saw in that game, like, the Warriors as a whole didn't play anything spectacular, but Steph Curry did. So, at least maybe there are certain situations where it's like if you're playing a more experienced guy, like if he ran into like a LeBron in the next round, or if he ran into a Kevin Durant or something, maybe it'd be a little bit harder to put all the eggs in that basket. But I've seen these two teams go head to head, and the Kings have gotten some wins against them even this season, but it just feels like they're not the same team down the stretch of games. And really, like, at least from watching this year, and this is why I keep saying, like, I'm surprised that, like, the clutch player of the year ladder had De'Aaron Fox as high as they do, because it just seems like he hasn't been anything close to what he was last year in the clutch. And I would even argue that their best clutch player has really been Malik Monk, and now he's out. So without him, who's really your second playmaker on the team, I would say at least, like, not so much a playmaker, but I would say shot creator, because Sabonis will set guys up, but I don't know if you can really, like, run a play through Sabonis when giving him the ball and expect him to, get his, especially when him and Draymond have a history. And I think Draymond kind of maybe has gotten his head recently. So I feel like Draymond's going to play really well. I think Klay's going to play pretty good. And I know Curry's going to play really well. So, it's going to be tough. But even in that game last year, like I said, they didn't play great in a Game 7. But it was kind of a blowout, And this Kings team this year, I think that their depth has really been tested and at the same time exposed a little bit. Because there's sometimes where, like, guys like, maybe Keon Ellis are getting in the game, and it's like, I just don't know if he should be getting the role that he's getting on this team. And it seems like it's just more so like a sudden insert. And I don't know if that's like a Mike Brown thing or if that's just the reality of their team, that maybe there's nobody that could fit against, like, certain matchups. But the point is, I just don't think the Kings, even with home court advantage, I don't think they're going to be lighting the beam.
Do you guys think, like, this is a convincing Golden State win, or maybe like a close-ish game that Golden State pulls away in?
I think it won't be as convincing as, like, the Game 7 last year, but, like, because that was like a 20-point win or something, like, but it'll probably be like an 11 or 10 or 11 point game probably.
As much as I blaze Curry and did so in my opening statement, I actually think it's going to be the bench minutes that decide the game. Because with Malik Monk out versus Chris Paul running that Golden State bench, I really feel like that's going to be what does it. So I don't think it'll be like super blowout, but I think Golden State will get it done by double digits, like 10 to 15 points.
Yeah, I'm on a similar wavelength. I think once you get those bench minutes, start of the third, maybe a little bit early fourth, I think it's pretty much wraps at that point. Sacramento might try and fight a bit, but they'll be in it per se, but I think Golden State will have it pretty comfortably from there on.
I'm pretty sure that Chris Paul has not missed the playoffs either since 2010. So, he's definitely got an experience edge on a lot of these guys from the Kings that are maybe not quite as prepared. A lot of these guys on the Kings, like off the bench, except maybe like Davion Mitchell and Trey Lyles and like maybe a couple guys, but Alex Len, I guess, but like they just haven't really been tested like that. And even those guys haven't hardly been tested like in a playoff atmosphere. Going up against like, I know we can call him CPO and stuff like that, but like, he still definitely has like an experience edge on these guys if they're putting in the second unit. So I don't know. I think it's going to be Golden State, and it seems like we're all in agreement. But yeah, if you guys want, though, we can move on to the last two games that we got, and I'm just double checking. Okay, so in the 8 seed game for the Eastern Conference, I think what we'll do though is we'll make our predictions based on like what we predicted already. So everyone picked Miami to lose, but 3 of us picked Chicago to win, and Devin, you picked Atlanta to win. So I guess Devin, your pick will be between Atlanta and Miami. The rest of us, Bulls and Miami. But we'll start with Gabe on this one. Between the Bulls and the Heat for the 8 seed, who's going to take it?
I think this is the easiest pick of the whole video.
Okay.
It's Miami.
Jeez.
Like I don't think Spoelstra's gonna let him drop 2 in a row. I don't think Jimmy's gonna let him drop 2 in a row. I think the defensive presence of Bam, Jimmy when he's locked in, everybody else on that team, obviously the zone that they can run and the schemes that they can do against a Billy Donovan who's okay. He's not the worst coach in the league, but definitely far from the best. Like they seem to have the advantage on almost every side of this, whether it's talent, scheming, experience, whatever it may be. I mean, yeah, the game was close last year, but the Bulls, Zach LaVine is not even here. I mean, that was their.
He was terrible last year in the game, by the way.
Yeah,
whether he was good or not, still just the presence of the you have to focus defensive attention on him. You don't even have that. I mean, Kobe White's better than he was last year, but still, like, if Eric Spoelstra decides to lock in on DeMar, like that's it. They're done.
This game could get a little mucky, but I think I'm gonna just take Miami just based off of the talent factor is just better. Yeah, this game could be just as nasty as it was last year, but I think Miami is just. I think they're better this year talent-wise than what they were last year, which sounds crazy because they made it to the NBA Finals. But we all know how great offensively and shooting the ball those guys were once it got to the playoffs. And the coaching matchup, like Gabe mentioned, I trust Spoelstra over just about any coach in the NBA when it comes to, the playoffs, when it comes to these one-game scenarios. I trust him more than anybody to prepare. So I'm going to take Miami. As much as I would love the Celtics to match up with the Bulls over the Heat, but I guess we'll see Miami in the first round.
Yeah, I'm with Miami here too, even against the Hawks. I think against the Hawks, this gets much more ugly than it does against the Bulls. I think you just throw Jimmy on Trey, or if DeJounte starts heating up, you throw Jimmy on DeJounte. And given the lack of offensive options that Atlanta currently have, they're probably in trouble pretty quick. And given the fact that after Clint comes out, they don't have a Kongu on the bench either, I think Bam's going to be able to take advantage of that matchup on Bruno Fernando on any minutes he gets against him. So I think that's going to be an issue for them. And generally speaking, Atlanta just ain't going to be able to defend these guys. Either Jimmy's going to have a favorable matchup, or in the more likely scenario where DeAndre Hunter gets thrown on Jimmy, Hero should be able to have a good game, assuming he can still get his form back as he's getting back from injury. Bam should be able to do work. And Atlanta they're just nowhere near as good of a team as Miami. This should be a game that, especially at home, should be a game they can comfortably deal with. They should set the tone defensively, and from there, their defense should give them the win. I don't expect their offense to be amazing, but they should be able to set the tone enough defensively to start getting out in transition, get a few turnovers, and from there, they shouldn't really have to look back. Finally, this is the game where their back's finally against the wall. They'll show up, finally. Just barely in time, but they'll do it.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously, with the Heat and the Bulls, of course, they played last year, and it was, we literally, you said it, Reek, like, about 2 or 3 minutes left in the game, we were winning, we had it, and then we let it slip, But, I think, this year, we've been much better in the clutch than last season, where we blew so many games. I think it's allowed guys like Kobe White to even step up. And, of course, last year, who knows, if it wasn't a Max Strus masterclass, we probably would have been on into the playoffs. So all those things considered, that's why I'm still picking the Heat. Yeah, I'm still picking the Heat. I know my team, they're not going to beat the Heat. In some other universe, would it be cool? Of course, it would be awesome. But I just know that this is the reality of this team. They're frustrating. That's why that's another reason why I'm confident they'll beat Atlanta, because they'll get super close. They'll get very close, just like they did last year, and give you false hope, thinking that they're going to actually make the playoffs. And then they might even play close with the Heat as well. And then boom, it just all goes away. And then it's like, this is a failure once again. And the team will recycle and repeat it once again, saying, if we had Zach LaVine and we had Patrick Williams, we would have beat the Heat and we would have made the playoffs. And if we had the parity of the league on our side, it's not going to happen like that. And so it would be cool if we did make it, if we did win. But I know the players have even vowed that they're going to take advantage of this opportunity already that maybe they didn't satisfy last year. But let's be real. Even though I don't think the Heat are as much of a threat this season in the East as maybe they were in previous years, they're not going to lose this game.
Maybe if it was like a weekend, the Bulls might be able to take it, but DR has school. Be on a Wednesday, so that's really going to get that's the biggest X factor the Bulls might have, because otherwise they wouldn't even got close last year. It would have been my Raptors taking home that 8 seed.
Hey, I don't know about all that, but she was kind of the MVP of that game. But
I'm so sorry that I could hear the pain in your voice, Garrett, when you were just talking about the rinse and repeat cycle that's just gonna happen with the Bulls. Like, I'm so sorry, man.
It just continues to happen. Like, I don't know really what else to say about it. Like, I already know they're gonna come into the offseason and be like, well, if Zach LaVine was there and if we had Patrick Williams, and I feel like honestly the reason we even are where we are is because we've played without them. Just because as much as they do obviously bring a scoring punch with LaVine and then versatility with Patrick Williams, it's I just don't think they're quite the fit with the team we have right now to bring us the most success. Guys like Kobe White wouldn't have broke out the way they did if it weren't for that happening. So,
bro, I'm gonna sound so nihilistic, but if I'm a Bulls fan, bro, I don't even want the 8 seed.
I don't. I'm and you know
how
what?
memes
I
you're
don't.
gonna get
I
for
don't.
losing by 40 to the Celtics every night. It's gonna. Do you remember when the Bucks played the Pistons and Blake Griffin went out after game 1 and 40-point blowout? Giannis is playing 25 minutes. And it's with how good the Celtics have been this year, I don't want my team to be a laughing stock. I got too much pride.
Well, I'm not even gonna lie. It's not even that for me. It's just the fact that I know if we make the playoffs, it's gonna give Jerry Reinsdorf false hope. And he's going to be like, oh, yeah, see? I mean, we showed promise here and there. No, you didn't. We're so far away. What's the one saying, it was 2 years away from being 2 years away with Bruno Caboclo? That's like the Bulls, optimism level every single time. And it's just not going to happen. So, yeah. But, we could, I guess, move off of this topic here, and we could move on to the 8 seed game in the West, the last playing game that we got. I believe all of us have 7 seed Pelicans against 10 seed 10 seed Warriors, except Reek picked the Lakers to lose that game. So I guess you will be with Lakers and Warriors, which would be kind of iconic. But we'll start with you. Who would win the LeBron and Curry matchup for the 8 seed?
Give me the Lakers. I still think the Warriors, what hurt them in that series last year was the size in their front line, and it hasn't gotten better this year. And the Lakers, they have that length in the front court. They've been playing really well since they put Rui in the starting lineup, and he's been playing a lot more. And it's a lot, man. I just don't trust the Warriors supporting cast nearly as much as one should. It's Steph who's been good this year, even though it's kind of been a down year for his standards. Kuminga's been good. But really outside of that, like, Clay has not been great. Could argue he hasn't even been good, honestly. And I trust the Lakers others a little bit more. I trust we've seen Austin Reeves show up in big playoff games last year. D'Angelo Russell can do that. Rui Hachimura can do that. And that's not even getting to LeBron and AD, like in a one-game scenario. I trust those guys a lot more than I trust everybody outside of Stephen Curry. And look, whichever team loses this game, if this is the game that does happen, they're going to have a big offseason ahead of them. And I just think the Lakers are built to they're like the Warriors' kryptonite right now, and they will probably beat them in the playoff scenario again.
I got the Warriors going home as well, this being against the Pels, but I think they're in an interesting matchup here. I think Herb Jones chasing after Steph all night is going to be an interesting matchup. Now, how Herb deals with that will be interesting. Obviously, he's a great on-ball guy. He's an elite defender, no doubt about it. But it's much different dealing with I'm guarding this guy in the wing compared to I got to go chase around Steph all night. That's a very difficult thing to do, especially with as good of sets and as good of screeners that Golden State have. But if anyone's going to do it, Herb Jones is going to do it. And I think that's going to limit Steph's production to a point. I also think this is a much more favorable matchup for the Pelicans than the Lakers might be. There's a lot less interior presence and rim protection on this Warriors team, whether it be from Draymond, Looney, if he gets some minutes, Trace Jackson-Davis. I think whether they really want to feed into JV and let him get a lot of paint production, I think it's a little bit more favorable there, at least offensively. Of course, defensively, that becomes a little bit more of a concern, but I think Larry Nance fits a lot more into this matchup a lot better, not as much size on this team, and I think he can fit in much better. And alongside that, guys like Zion especially, but even BI or even CJ with dribble penetration, they should be able to have a lot more impact in the paint, score a lot more in the paint, get to the free throw line a little bit more, and not be as restricted or as intimidated by that rim pressure and rim defense that you might have going against the Lakers. So I think there's some favorable things here for the Pels. This would be in New Orleans as well, which will give them a little bit of an edge. So I think Steph and the Warriors missed out on the playoffs.
As sad as it might sound, yeah, I do think the Steph Curry is going to be on a golf course about a week and a half from now. And I'm with you guys on the Pelicans making it in. I think they just have a lot going for them. In this matchup, that depth is just going to be able to shine so much more. With, like Devin was talking about, that lack of inside presence, it just allows them to play their game. Like, the overall lack of defenders on Golden State, they can attack you from so many angles in New Orleans. It could be a Zion game. It could be a Brandon Ingram game. It could be a CJ game like we saw last night. It could be a Trey Murphy game for all we know. Like, they have so much going for them. And without that monster defensive presence like an AD there, I just don't see them being able to shut that down. So I think this is the end of the road for the Warriors.
So, and for me, I also have like a Pelicans Warriors matchup. And I didn't go with what you guys went with. I actually think the Warriors will win. It might seem a little crazy because obviously they'll be on the road, but first of all, I think that their road woes from last season have kind of flipped a little bit. But I will say, like, at least with this matchup, if they're coming off a win against the Kings, I think that's going to be a huge momentum boost. I feel like losing twice to the Lakers will be a little bit more demoralizing for the Pelicans at that point. And, you know, both these teams have been in a situation like this before where it's like back against the wall in a play-in scenario. And I've seen the Pelicans fold like that literally just last season when they really had all the expectations in the world for them to succeed. And I think the Warriors are going to try and like rewrite the script a little bit from when they had that on the wrong end of things against Memphis. Now, granted, it's like not completely the same team, but I do think that the Warriors, you know, they're going to a little bit with maybe it's hard to tell because it's such a small sample size, but I think after that Kings game against the Suns, when it was Sacramento and Phoenix, and Bradley Beal basically said, like, we all have to lock in, especially on the defensive end, and you saw the way they came out against Minnesota to end the season. I think that the game against, ironically, Sacramento will almost serve in the same way for the Warriors leading into that Pelicans game. So I do think that they have an experience edge, and it would be hard for the Pelicans, but I also know that the Pelicans, very similar to my Bulls, are a team that, like, if you put your eggs in their basket, they're probably going to disappoint more times than not, and I just don't think that they're going to get it done. And that's tough to say because they literally had the chance to control their destiny today. You know, if they just won, they would be in, and I don't think that's going to happen now.
Yeah, that would be tough. But if Golden State wins, I'm pretty sure they would be the first 10 seed to make it out of the play-in. So a little bit of history there if that does happen.
Not even a lot of 10 seeds have ever won. I think last year might have been the first time that, and both of them won, I think, correct?
Okay, C1 and who was
the
other
Bulls.
one? The Bulls. Yeah.
The Bulls, yeah.
I think that might have been the first time, but yeah.
They would be the ones to do it. I mean, this is such an interesting, more so out west. Like, you got multiple teams with 45 plus wins, like at the 9-10. Like, that's just crazy.
And a 500 team in the Rockets doesn't even make the play-in.
I saw your tweet earlier. I'm like, that's being the 11th seed as a 41 win team is like unprecedented territory.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good. I shout out the Rockets for a good season. That's complete side note, but that's even shocking they did that. But yeah, this West play-in is probably going to be the most exciting one we've gotten. The Pelicans they've been really both teams have been in this play-in scenario a couple times before. So if it comes down to Pelicans Warriors, like that's really a game where everything will be on the table.
Yeah, it's not necessarily like where at least out east in the 9-10 matchup. Even though you could argue Atlanta and Chicago need to make moves, no one's really too concerned if they're missing the postseason. Everyone kind of expected that. Out west, obviously we knew a couple of teams were going to miss before the start of the season, but no one had expectations internally for any of these teams. They would never have been saying, we're okay if we don't make the playoffs this year. So it's a big pressure game for all teams involved. Whereas out east, Atlanta, Chicago, kind of just playing with house money. If they get into the playoffs, much above expectations. Out west, any of these teams lose, there's some question marks and some decisions that get made internally much more severely than the teams out east.
Not gonna lie, like they should just, forget the Bulls and Hawks game. They should just say, you know what, we're gonna throw the Rockets into the East playoffs, and they'll just play whoever loses for that 8 seed.
I would not be mad at it.
I mean, not even a terrible idea. Yeah. Talking about teams making decisions, like you see the Warriors and Lakers both with like aging stars. They definitely don't want to miss out. The Kings don't want to be seen as fluky one and done. Like they want to cement their status, so they don't want to like. They probably could afford to miss, but it definitely not be good for their culture. I feel like the Pelicans probably have the least to lose, but at the same time, this is really our first chance to see playoff Zion. So like, just personally, I really want to see them in just to get that first taste of what Zion and Brandon Ingram can really do together in a playoff setting.
I'll be honest. That's the team that honestly might have the most to lose out of all of this. Mm-hmm. And not because they have like maybe the highest ceiling this year, but if you miss the playoffs 2 years in a row and you get a healthy Zion year and you still miss the postseason, it's going to be a very big off season for whoever's in that front office still to make some changes. So instead of fighting for, a playing spot next year, we're trying to be one of the best teams in the conference. You see how OKC's pulling stuff off. The Pelicans should kind of take that kind of personal. Like they're getting the 1 seed, and we got to play some playing games to try and get in. So I think they got the most to lose personally out of any team that's in the playing right now.
And nobody
It's
was an
crazy to say
all-star,
about a
too.
49-win team, though. Like, you're a game away from being a 50-win team talking about we got to make major changes. Like, this conference is insane.
Look, you don't know how many healthy Zion seasons you're going to get where he plays a good amount of games. And to have that and basically fumble your postseason chances away, like that's when we're going to start hearing a lot of, big time Brandon Ingram rumors or whoever to try and get this team better.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, it's Zion's healthy. BI's been in and out of the lineup, but at least he's back. I mean, we don't know how many years we're going to get of that. Of course, it wasn't a significant package to get him, but CJ McCollum you made as your big move to add a third option.
Mhm.
He's not exactly getting any younger either. He's 33 around the start of next season. So there's questions along how long he'll be around, and then if you have to add another guard, or like you say, is there questions alongside the fit of BI and Zion, just like we heard with Tatum and Jaylen Brown for years. Just obviously in the Capels case, they've actually not had much success, unlike in the Celtics case. And similarly, is JV now an option that needs to get looked at? Do they look for a new center? Because as good as JV is, at times you have games like today and probably matchups during a play-in or a playoff series, if they get there, where he plays like 7 minutes. And how valuable is that? And what do you look to do to potentially improve that? So a lot of positive things in New Orleans, but like you say, there could be a lot of pressure there because in a healthy year, this core is supposed to be good and is supposed to be one of the best young cores in the league. And if they can't actually capitalize on anything on that in a significant way when they're healthy, it's tough to just say, well, let's run it back and hope we're healthy again.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of pressure on, especially these 4 teams, because, like, I think, maybe playoff-wise, 2 of them kind of exceeded what they thought based on their season last year in the Warriors and Lakers, and then the Kings exceeded throughout the regular season. The Pelicans kind of had that, given after Zion left. So we'll just have to see, what happens. But, for our full play-in predictions, we all pick Philly to get that 7 seed. All of us except for Reek picking the Lakers to get the 7 seed, and then Reek picked the Pelicans. We all picked Chicago to beat Atlanta, except Devin picked the vice versa. And then we all picked the Warriors over the Kings. We all picked Miami to win for that 8 seed, except, of course, Devin had Atlanta and we had Chicago. And then I feel like the 8 seed in the West is really where it was the most different, because I had the Warriors over the Pelicans. Devin had the Pelicans over the Warriors. Gabe had the same thing. And then Reek, you had the Lakers over the Warriors. So it's definitely going to be an interesting play-in scenario. But I guess that leads me to my question, and we don't have to spend maybe too much time on this, but just overall, with the playoffs, it could be something in the play-in we just talked about, or maybe the set playoff series. I guess what are you guys looking forward to the most in this postseason?
Go first, Gabe.
Well, I'll give 2 things. One, a direct series. Clippers Mavericks 3 is going to be crazy. The Clippers with their reinforcements this time having, Westbrook, Harden. It's a different version of the Clippers than we saw the last time these 2 teams faced off. And then the Mavericks even more so. Luka has some actual help. Kyrie's been crazy, killing it all season. They've strengthened that backline, that defense. It's going to be a good one, and that's a lot of players who rise to the occasion. You think playoff Kawhi, playoff Luka, playoff Kyrie, it's going to go the distance, I think, and that's going to be a fun one. The other one is just going to be all the young teams that are making it and how they all perform. There's going to be a lot of this player's playoff debut. Is this player a crazy playoff riser? Or, this player, he's a complete fraud, regular season merchant. We'll see. Shea's made it before, but this is the first time where he's really been Shea, number 1 option, superstar, MVP candidate. You got, on the other side, the Magic are making it for the first time. So how will Paolo and Franz do? What do they look like? the Pacers, they're in. What is like Halliburton going to look like, even though he's struggled after the injury? But I still think there's potential for could be fun, or he could be catching some allegations. So just how all these first timers do coming in.
Yeah, I was gonna single out somebody. I'm excited to see how Paolo performs. I know Dev's gonna be excited for that first round matchup, but just him individual, I want to see how he plays. I think he has the opportunity to one day be like, hopefully we see it right away, but being a great playoff performer. And the 3-6 matchup out west, Timberwolves, Suns, I think that it's a fun matchup. The best defense in the NBA against what you would want to be one of the best offense in the NBA. Maybe could be that, in the postseason, with the three-headed monster, Book, Durant, and Beal. I think that's going to be a fun series, like Gabe said about the 4-5 out west. I think that can be one that might go the distance. So that's one that I'm gonna try my best not to miss a single game of that.
Yeah, the 4-5 out west is definitely exciting. Definitely staying tuned on that. But as you said, Reek, 4-5 out east is a series I'm very intently paying attention to. Two teams that we know are not great offensively, but have had at least good defensive identities. Cleveland defensively have not been as stout since they've actually had their guys back from injury, oddly enough, but they're still going to lie their cap on that end. Same with Orlando. And I'm interested to see, how does Paolo do? Like you said, Reek, how does Franz do? How do Cleveland's guys rebound in the postseason this year? How do the additions of a little bit more spacing and Strus help? Does Dean Wade and Isaac Okoro's improve shooting over the last little bit stay true? Another thing I want to see, especially given the nature of this matchup, in that they're two very defensive teams that struggle for shooting and spacing sometimes. How does this coaching matchup go? And especially in the case of Jamal Mosley, how does he stand in a playoff setting? And does he kind of separate himself as, okay, he's someone who's in running for coach of the year this year because of a good regular season, but does that translate to the postseason? And how does he scheme these guys, especially on the offensive end, with some bad spacing, with some bad shooting, and going against a good defense? Can he kind of separate themselves against Cleveland with the aid of that potential coaching? And then similarly on the defensive end as well, with how would they deal with guys like Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland? That's something I'm really interested to see as well, because if he can really prove himself to be that guy, and they already have their head coach of the future, that's just going to help them elevate even more over the next couple of years as they get that experience and Orlando try to be a top team in the East.
Yeah, I just think overall it's full of a lot of teams that, or a lot of matchups that we've seen kind of like develop a storyline more so. I mean, first of all, of course, Clippers Mavericks, as you guys said, and that's been like maybe the best first round series in like 2 of the last 4 playoffs that we've seen. So the fact that we're getting it again, really the first playoffs that we've had like the Clippers go into since that moment where they both, like Kawhi and Paul George, have been 100% healthy, or they're both going to be there. So I think that's big, and I think it's going to make that more exciting. And of course, like Kyrie's in the mix now too, so that's going to be a big one. I think as well, a lot of people maybe aren't super high on the Cavs Magic, but me and Devin are maybe the 2 biggest supporters of that series. But it's going to be exciting because it's like, it's a little bit more so old school style. It's going to be like a complete different pace than a lot of the other games. And I think it's going to be more so like a grit and grind style. And that's kind of like, it's kind of cool because like, basketball from like the 2000s, 2010s, there was a lot more of that going on. So it's cool to have like a series like that, especially players like Donovan Mitchell or Paolo Banchero, who, I mean, I'm high on both of them. So I think it'll be exciting to see them. And then, Suns Timberwolves, that's kind of developed more so into, I wouldn't say like a rivalry, but like a great duel between like Ant and KD and Booker and stuff like that. So that should be interesting. And then I think too, like with this, Bucks Pacers thing, and obviously like there was the whole game ball situation, like with Oscar Tshiebwe, and then Giannis going crazy for 64, and then the in-season tournament, like they matched up, and like basically I think there hasn't been a team Halliburton's played better against this year than the Milwaukee Bucks. Now we get to see him make his playoff debut against them. Like, probably is the best thing the Pacers fans maybe could have asked for, I would say. And so I think that's going to make that series more interesting too. So it's going to be exciting, like you guys said, the young teams, and really maybe for some of these experienced teams that haven't accomplished much, whether it's Minnesota or Cleveland, how are they going to maybe turn around from last season that was maybe kind of seen as like a disappointment at the end and make more of it in this run?
There's two things I'm surprised nobody mentioned. And the first one I'm going to say, because we're talking about matchups that we've had a couple times, and Clippers Mavericks has been good both times it's happened, but we've seen Heat Celtics 3 times, and it's been really good every single time. So with there being a really high chance that we get that for a fourth time, I don't know how you feel about Miami. People were high on Miami going to the postseason last year, and this team had 2 more wins than that team did. So similar, if not better, overall. And then I really want to see how the Knicks perform as well, because this is not the same Knicks team as last year. I'd say Brunson's even a step better. Randall has all his up and downs, and he's out. So is that a net positive for them in a postseason environment? We'll see. And then the addition of OG Anunoby, I mean, that's a big deal, even if he's been, was out for a little bit, deal with his own stuff. But it's still a big deal for them to have. So how this sort of new look Knicks team does, I want to see that too.
I don't know if I said it on the podcast after like the OG trade and everything, but I put the thought out somewhere that the Knicks could make the conference finals this season, and they literally have the perfect path to do so now. Like, they don't have to play potentially Boston in the second round, and they would have home court against whoever they would match up with. And the teams that they could potentially play, they've played well against them this season. Jalen Brunson is averaging like basically 40 points against the Bucks this year. He's killing them. So I'm glad you brought.
To add to that too, I saw a stat that in the most recent game he played, apparently he put up the most points against the Bucks by any player ever in a single season. But you can continue.
They did play it seemed like 7 times this year.
So it is fair, but of course back then there were less teams too, so teams were playing more. So,
but yeah, and I think I like Julius Randle, but the fact that they don't have to integrate him back is kind of a plus, because I think their ceiling might have been higher, but that would take Julius Randle having a great playoff run potentially. But I think this team currently constructed is, if OG's healthy, I think their ceiling is getting to the conference finals, and I think whoever they match up with, they will give them a hell of a series.
Yeah, the Knicks are going to be really fascinating. Another really good defensive team. We know Tibbs is going to run those guys 40-plus minutes a night, but Brunson's cooking enough. DiVincenzo's been much better this year. We know guys like Josh Hart, emergence of Miles McBride, they're going to come in and do their job. There's potential there for them to play spoiler to a few teams, and most potentially the Bucks for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously I'll be doing my playoff predictions in the next episode, but what I will say about the Knicks is that I feel like I would even take it a step higher, is that I feel like their ceiling is the finals. I mean, this is a 2 seed, Now, the other thing, too, is that I think in, like, the last few years, like when they made it in 2021 and last season, I don't think they had the same expectations on them. So that could maybe come back to bite them in the butt. But at the same time, this is also a Knicks team that's, continued to, I guess, overcome what I guess, like, people set out for them and what they thought they could accomplish. So I don't think it's far-fetched to say they could go through the Eastern Conference. Now, it's going to be hard to beat whoever's in the West because there's a lot of experienced teams out there, but I don't know.
Yeah, if somebody knocks out Boston, it's going to be a wild East.
And that's exactly what you were saying, too. I mean, if as much as we would think Boston should beat Miami, like, we thought that last year, and a team that was an 8 seed was up 3-0 in the conference finals. Like, so I would still, probably pick Boston, but it's not like a foregone conclusion.
Definitely. And this is the last point I wanted to bring up is I've been seeing a lot of people say, like, it's inevitable that we get to Celtics Nuggets in the finals. I don't think it's that cut and dry.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it is inevitable and that's the matchup, I'm interested to see how we get there. I think I feel like we say it every year, but this has the opportunity to be like one of the best playoffs. Like, just all the matchups that we just talked about, they all look really fun on paper. Even the matchups that look kind of nasty, those are still entertaining matchups. A lot of young guys getting their first taste of the postseason. We got 2 teams, that are seen to be above the rest, but maybe they're not. So this is going to be a lot of fun, man. I'm so excited that we're to this point.
Yeah, I think it's inevitable that the Bulls replicate the Heat's 8 seed run last year. That could have been them. No, That's not gonna happen.
Kobe White.
Kobe White going crazy. But I don't know. But yeah, it should be an exciting playoffs. But yeah, if you guys want, we can move on to, I always close the show with a nice little mini game. So, this time around we got the NBA Pyramid Prize mini game. And it's kind of based on the game show $25,000 Pyramid, if you guys are familiar. So basically what's going to be happening is there's going to be 6 rounds, and each of these guys are going to have 90 seconds to answer. But you guys, each of you guys will have 2 chances to give hints and stuff like that. And you guys will also have 2 chances to answer. And I'm going to give you a list of different criteria. Some of the answers are worth $10, others are worth $50, others are worth $100. But you have to work in the order of the list I give you. Now, if you want to move on to the next one, you're giving hints. Like if it's, let's say the answer is LeBron James, and you're like, he plays on the Lakers and blah, 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 and you don't know, then you could say skip. That would just tell me that you're giving hints for the next thing. And for each round, however many you get, the person can guess correctly is how many points or how many dollars you're going to get to your score. And yeah, you can't say any of the words though in the answer. So if you say accidentally, you slip up and you say like LeBron or something, or if it's Giannis is the answer and you say like it's Thanasis Antetokounmpo's brother, you don't get points for that. You just move on to the next one. And then we would just cross off that one for the remainder of that time. So each of you guys, like I said, there's 6 rounds. You guys will each have a chance to give hints to your 2 counterparts and also receive hints from them as well. So are you guys ready?
Let's do it.
And like I said, you guys will have to have, I guess, like your phones handy because I will be sending you the hints. So the first round, it's going to be with, and again, for anyone that doesn't know, these guys are working together as a team. So the first round is going to be with Devin and Rik. I'm going to send the list to you, Devin. You don't say it or any of the names on there or anything, but the first round is, I call it the put me in coach round. And it's going to basically be a bunch of coaches, and Devin's going to give hints. He obviously can't say the name of the coach, but for every one that Rik gets right in the 90 seconds, that's how many dollar amounts you guys will get. You have to work in order, and if you want to move on to the next one, just say skip, and then I'll follow along the same order. But other than that, are you guys ready, Devin and Rik?
Is it 2 hints per? So in this case, 2 hints per coach.
Oh no, you can give so it'll be like 90 seconds, and Devin can give as many hints as he wants. Like he could be like, he's in the West, he coaches this team, he coached this other team, and stuff like that. And if you just don't know, then it'd probably be best for him to say like skip or pass or whatever. Then I would know which one he's covering next. But
Okay,
yeah,
that makes sense.
I feel like it would make sense too as we go along. But the first round, are you guys ready?
Yes, sir. Let's go.
All right, I'll count you down from 5 seconds. Devin, you'll be ready to give hints. Of course, if you say a name in there, I'll have to cross that off. I'll tell you like, nope, move on to the next one. But here we go. All right. And I'll count you down, and then Devin can start giving hints. Rik, you'll have to be answering. If you get it correct, I mean, Devin can say if you got it correct, or I can. But here we go. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Head coach of the Spurs.
Greg Popovich.
Head coach of the 90s Bulls and later Lakers.
Phil Jackson.
Head coach of the Bucks.
Doc Rivers. I have to think about that.
A former head coach of the Nuggets.
George Karl.
Yep.
Former head coach of the Pelicans.
Monty Williams.
Prior to Stan Van Gundy.
Alvin Gentry.
Yep.
Okay.
Former head coach who's not coached in 2 decades. Last coach with the Grizzlies. Had some time with the Knicks.
There's like
In
30
the
seconds
80s.
left.
Fizz in the 80s. Oh my god. Keep going.
Had some time as a broadcaster.
20 seconds.
Lionel Hollins.
No.
No.
In the Hall of Fame. Not as a player, but
10 seconds.
Oh, Pat Riley. I don't
5,
know.
4, 3, 2, 1.
That's
Okay. Well,
that was
you
a tough one.
you guys did get the first 5, and I should have mentioned too. The first 3 are each worth $10. The second 2 after that, the fourth and fifth one, are worth $50, and then the last one is worth $100. So that was the $100 one you didn't get, but you still got $130 for that one. The last one, it was, he's on ESPN, and he's pretty old. He's one of the commentators, Hubie Brown.
yeah. I was gonna get that.
I would have never guessed that. There's no skip? Like, if you don't know,
Well, so you can
can't, like, go to the next
you
one?
you can pass to the next one too. That's what I was saying. But I mean, Reek got them all so
That's
quick
what
that was the last
Yeah,
one.
that was
So
the
that
last
was-
one.
So
Okay.
there are 6 of them. So yeah.
I'll live with that then. I'll live with that one.
Okay.
Hubie.
So the round 2. Now this is gonna be the round I call it. What do you call it? Because these are all nicknames that I'm going to be giving. And for the second round, it's going to be Gabe giving hints to Devin.
This should
Ooh,
be fun.
all right.
So I'm gonna send
You
you.
know what happened the last time we dealt with nicknames?
Well,
Oh wow.
I feel like this one should be kind of funny. So Gabe, I'm sending you the nicknames. You don't reveal any, but yeah, same pattern. First 3 are worth $10. Next 2 after that are worth $50. The last one's worth $100. And I'm just giving you the nicknames as well, Gabe. So I guess you can go on it based on the player, maybe if you know it, or you could go based on like whatever fits the nicknames criteria. So,
Okay. All right.
but you'll have again 90 seconds. Gabe, you're giving hints to Devin. Are you guys ready?
Let's do it.
All right, ready. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
The greatest point guard of all time.
Magic.
Yep.
All right. Next one, player for predominantly Spurs at the end, the Bulls, 80s. Am I allowed to say the player's name?
No, you're not allowed to say the player's name either.
Okay. Really good 80s scorer. If you play 2K, he's on like the 85 Bulls team.
You can skip too if you want.
Yeah, we might want to skip this one.
Okay, next one is nickname of the GOAT. Think about the shoes.
MJ.
The nickname though you need.
Oh,
Correct player, but
the nickname.
what's in the atmosphere?
Air Jordan.
Yes. Move on to
Okay,
the 51.
Next one, you put food in it. It goes
Microwave?
quick.
Yep.
There you go. All right, next one, you have a great charade involving this.
The worm.
Yes.
Next one.
Okay. The next one,
4 seconds, by the way.
the tip of a pencil, a person.
That was time. Okay, so my fault. I should have said the time alert earlier, but you guys did get 4 of the 6. You got 120, I guess, dollars for that one. You got Magic Johnson. The second one was
Finger roll, man. Come on.
yeah, finger roll would have been good too. The Iceman, George Gervin. So you're looking for Iceman.
Thinking that. Okay.
Air Jordan, the microwave, Vinnie Johnson, the worm. And why did I had a feeling you were going to give a hint like that too about his charade. And the last one's kind of hard because it was the human eraser. Like then he's saying the tip of the pencil. Just out of curiosity, do either any of you guys know who the human eraser is?
No.
Mark Eaton.
No, it was Marvin Webster.
Oh God.
So
No, it's not getting that.
the $100 ones have to be a little bit more intense,
That's
but
fair.
so you guys still did get 120 for that one. But yeah, okay, so that's 2 rounds in. There's 4 more rounds left. Now round 3 is going to be Reek, you're giving hints to Gabe.
Okay.
And this round is called I Am Familiar with Your Game Now, because all these guys have won the Most Improved Player Award. So that does narrow it down a little bit. Reek, I'm going to send you the list. And again, you have to work in that order. If you want to like move on to the next one, you could say skip. But yeah, so you do have the list, correct?
Yep.
Dude, the old players are gonna fuck me up so bad.
All right. Well, we will see. So, all right. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Former Bull, former Cav, now plays in the West. It's part of a big trade.
Why am I already blanking?
Bulls, Cavs traded to the Western Conference.
What team did he win it on?
Can I say that?
Yeah.
Utah.
Yeah.
Utah.
Oh, duh, Lowry Markkinen.
My goodness.
Next
Okay. Former Raptor, NBA champion.
1 minute left.
Former Raptor,
Pascal
NBA champion.
Siakam.
Yep.
Yes. Current Miami Heat player, Michael
Jimmy
Jordan's
Butler.
son.
Oh.
Yes. Grit and grind.
Zach Randolph.
Yes, cooking. Former Nugget, kind of was ahead of his time. Good 3-point shooter.
Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf.
Mm-hmm.
You're cooking.
One more.
God, if you play 2K, he has a weird jump shot. He shoots it with one hand.
Kevin Duckworth.
Yep. You
Yes,
got it.
you're cooking, man.
You got them all. That's it. Wow.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh,
Man.
That was nice work there. So you guys got the maximum you can get on each one is 230. Breeze kind of threw it. Markkinen, I feel like, took you the longest, which is pretty insane. But
Bruh, how did I get Kevin Duckworth quicker? For some reason, bro, you said Bulls, Cavs, and I was like, Bros? No.
I didn't know if I could have said like the team he played on. I should.
yeah, I mean, you can say the team. You just
I
like
thought you would get it.
can't
off of
say the
Bulls,
name.
No, because I was
And then
thinking
traded
like
to the West.
I was thinking a player who won it on the Bulls or Cavs, and I was like, I can't think of a Cavs that won it.
Mm.
Well, on the Bulls is like Jimmy.
Mm.
I
He
should have
didn't
just said
play for the
last year's
Cavs.
winner. I should have said last year's winner. That's all.
Yeah. Well, so we're through 3 rounds. I mean, now it gives you guys an idea. You guys will each have one more chance to answer and give hints. And starting with round 4, it's called Give That Guy a Map is the name of the round, because all these guys, fun fact, are the only guys from where they're from throughout the history, and I'm going to be sending you the stuff for it, Reek. Now, they will get a little bit harder. I will just kind of give that fair warning. And Reek, you are giving the hints to Devin. So
Okay.
Devin will be answering. Again, you'll have 90 seconds, and we'll see how it goes. Are you guys ready?
ready.
You ready, Dev? Okay.
All right.
Let's go.
In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Current Raptor center.
Portal.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. 2009 draft, number 2 pick, draft bust. Memphis Grizzly.
Hashim Thabit.
Yes.
Yes, you're cooking. Okay. His son plays for the his son plays for the Phoenix Suns right now. Compared to Wemby, but we're talking about his
Bobo.
dad. Yes.
Well,
Um,
you got to say he didn't say the name yet.
Oh, not okay. You're in the lineage, but not Bobo, but
You know what?
His-
Okay,
his
like
pop.
let you know what? I'll pause it. Like I'll give it to you because you did say his dad, and then you said the name, so I'd feel bad if I didn't count it. So I'll restart it at 50 seconds. It was Manute Bol, though, is what it is. This is it. Like,
man.
I think that's what you meant, but you said bull, so I was like, that wasn't. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So I'll restart it in, like, ready, go. Continue.
This guy, he was looking like Kobe Bryant in the FIBA World Cup last year. Used to play for the Raptors. I think he was a Brooklyn Net.
Dennis
think he was
Schroeder?
No. Like he looked like Kobe Bryant. I think he wore 24 too for his country in the FIBA World Cup. We talked about him on the podcast. Lefty, more of a defensive guy, but two last names. He has two last names, hyphenated.
Got about 10 seconds.
Lefty Raptor.
You know this, man.
3,
I know I do.
2.
That's
1.
Yeah, that's all the hints I can think of.
Yeah.
Man.
That one was kind of a hard one. I was thinking about making that maybe the $100 one, but
why did the first name that come to my mind was Rondé Hollis Jefferson?
that's who it is.
That's who it was.
Yep. Yeah. So you guys did get all the first half of them. The other two that you didn't get to were George Murasan, and then the $100 one was Bruno Fernando. So
I don't know how I would have gave you Bruno.
I don't know if I was getting either of those.
I just felt like at that point, like how would you even give a hint for Bruno Fernando that I'm like, that has to be the 100. Like at least for Rondé, you could say he played on these teams. He has like 2 names, so.
The same first name as R&B singer with the last name Mars. I don't know how I get Fernando.
That's crazy. Okay, so I mean that is 4 rounds in. So you got 2 more. Now this 5th round is going to be Devin giving hints to Gabe, and I call this round Taste the Rainbow because all these guys have played on a lot of teams, to give you an idea, but at some point they've also all worn every color that's in a rainbow, so red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. So we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna send the list to you, Devin. Again, you're giving hints to Gabe on this one. You'll have a minute and a half per the norm. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Played with Kobe in the early 2000s to win rings.
Yep.
60th overall pick. Played with the Celtics,
Isaiah
Suns.
Thomas.
Yep.
Center. Older center. It's very long since retired.
Tyson Chandler?
Nope.
No, much older than that. 80s, 90s. Let's skip.
Okay.
Skip that.
Another big man, played in the 2000s. Played with the Pacers.
Ron Artest, Metal World Peace.
Nope.
That's no big man.
Oh, let's skip.
Jermaine
Okay.
O'Neal.
Oh, you got it.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
That's most notable for his time with the Mavericks, currently with the Hawks. He's a shooting guard, decent 3-point shooter. He's played with the Bucks.
Skip.
Okay. $100 one.
Or the Bucks and the Twins.
Oh wait, what?
I think there was some lag.
Okay, yeah,
I might-
just repeat that.
Yeah, I might have lagged. Yeah, power forward of the Bucks in the 2010s. Decent mid-range shooter, could shoot the 3 a little bit.
Oh, what was that guy?
5 seconds.
Ersan Ilyasova?
Yep. Go back
Yep.
to the other one.
Back to the other one. Another
Okay,
guy
never-
with the last name in the league.
Never mind. You had no other time. Like that was the time at that point.
Yeah.
Okay, so you did get Shaq, Isaiah Thomas, Jermaine O'Neal, Wesley Matthews, and Ersan Ilyasova. So that's still 300 or 220 points or dollars. The other center that he was saying, it was like an old school one. It was Bob McAdoo.
I wasn't going to get that.
Yeah, that would have been kind of tough.
Yeah.
Although it's funny you guessed Tyson Chandler because when I was putting this together, like he was another name I was really trying to put together, but I'm like, I don't know if he ever wore, I think it was like green was the color. Because I know he's worn like orange with the Knicks and like the Suns, and he's wore purple and yellow with the Lakers. So I think that was the one color I was like, dang, but I was going to put him in there if he had. So, yeah. That was still pretty good, though. You guys got 220 on that one. And so we got
I
one.
got the $100 question. 2 for 2 on guessing the $100 ones.
That is good. So we got one final one. Now this one is going to be Gabe giving the hints to Reek on this one. And I called this round, do you remember the 21st night of September? Because all these guys were born on September 21st. So if you know birthdays, you're set. If not, you might be in for a tough one. Okay. So, again, 90 seconds. Gabe giving hints to Reek. This is the final round. So, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Old good bull spinner.
Joakim Noah?
Nope.
No, older than that.
Artis Gilmore?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. Defensive player of the year, Milwaukee Bucks. Old.
Sidney Moncrief?
Yes.
Yes. Skip the next one. We're going to go back to that later.
Okay.
So we'll go to the first $50 one of the forwards next to Dame during the mid-2010s.
Mo Harkless?
Nope.
Africa Amino?
Yes.
I mean, that's correct. 2 years away from being 2 years away.
Bruno Caboclo?
Yes.
Correct. $100 one. I believe he's either rookie, second year. I think rookie. Started out the year really hot on the Pistons. I think you were high on this guy.
Sasser?
Yes.
Marcus
Correct.
Sasser? Yep.
When we go back to $10 one, last name, when you press on your car steering wheel, that's the second half of the last name. So your car.
So Horn?
Yeah, and then first name.
30 seconds.
Never gonna give you up, guy. I don't know why that's the first thing I thought of.
Keep going.
20 seconds.
But the last name, the first half of his last name is the first syllable of the Kansas City Chiefs quarterback.
Okay, Muh.
10 seconds.
Plus car.
Rick Mahorn.
Yes, you got it with like 5 seconds left. Wow.
I saw that name, and I'm like, dude, I don't know one thing about this guy.
Oh man, I would. Yeah, that's a tough one if you don't know anything.
That's
about
why, bro. That's why I literally just saved that one for the.
If you knew, you could have just said Bad Boy Pistons, and
Yeah.
I could just start naming guys.
Yeah, that's the route I thought you were gonna go. I thought you were just gonna say he was on the Bad Boys or something, but that was a very interesting. That was the most, I guess, expansive hint of them all, and I guess saving it for the end. And you guys ended strong. So overall, though, I think that brings your guys' total to $910 on the show. Unfortunately, I don't have it on me, so I can't give that to you guys. But hey, in spirit though, like that was a pretty good effort, you know.
We'll take it.
So I mean, yeah, and I don't know. I thought you guys kind of had it going there. I felt like it made sense as it went on though, but yeah, it was kind of interesting to see like the hints, but yeah. How do you guys think you did?
Pretty solid. We cleared a couple lists.
Yeah.
I think the toughest one. What was the one that Gabe and Devin just did? That seemed like it was like the toughest
Taste
one.
the Rainbow one, like all the jersey number or different jerseys. Yeah,
that one seemed tough.
That one was tough. I think also the one with the map one that you were giving to Devin. I think that was hard too. Like Rondé Hollis Jefferson and Bruno Fernando. Yeah. But that one almost could have been like a last round one, but I feel like it was.
When I saw
the
$100 being Marcus Sasser, I was like, that's not that hard.
Yeah, I tried to like narrow it down a little bit, but I mean, you guys kind of steamrolled through it, so I got to give you props. So, yeah. Other than that, though, I mean, I think it's going to close out the show. Again, hopefully you guys enjoyed. I don't know if you guys got any final thoughts before we wrap this one up.
Oh, nothing much. Thanks for having us on.
Of course. Always appreciate the invite.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I mean, and if you guys want, I'm going to be on their channel very soon, so you guys want to definitely go check it out. 3 Point Weekly, I'll have it in the description below, along with all their individual stuff, so you guys can all check each of them out. So, again, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys for watching, and we're out. Peace.